Hey guys, welcome back to more Entitled Parents Revenge Stories. In this Ripestories video, what would you do if your own father left you homeless just to steal your inheritance? My dad and my shady uncle forged documents, stole a $50,000 deposit, and thought they had gotten away with the perfect real estate scam. But they forgot one tiny legal detail about my 18th birthday. Let's dive right into the video. And the title story is titled, "My parents sold my inheritance behind my back, disowned me, but I had the last laugh." So to understand how this all happened, you gotta understand my family dynamic. My grandfather, my dad's dad, was a self-made man. He was not a billionaire or anything, but he was incredibly smart with local real estate. Back in the 1980s, he bought a massive undeveloped commercial lot on the outskirts of our city. Over the next 30 years, the city expanded, and that lot ended up sitting right next to a newly constructed major highway intersection. By the time I was in high school, that dirt lot was worth a small fortune. My dad and uncle, his older brother, were the exact opposite of my grandfather. They were essentially always looking for a shortcut. My dad bounced from failed business venture to failed business venture, always relying on my grandpa to bail him out. My uncle was a commercial real estate broker, but he was notorious in our town for being shady, like cutting corners, screwing over partners, and hovering right on the edge of losing his license. My grandfather saw right through them usually. I remember sitting on the porch with him when I was 15, after my dad had just stormed off because my grandpa refused to fund another guaranteed $1 million business. Grandpa shook his head, looking exhausted. "You know what your father's problem is, OP? He thinks the world owes him a living just because he woke up this morning. And your uncle? Well, your uncle would sell his own mom's teeth if he thought he could get a commission on them." He looked at me dead serious. "Don't be like them. You work for what you have, and you read every single word of a contract before you sign it. Understand?" I took that to heart. So I spent every summer working with him, helping him fix up his rental properties, learning how to read lease agreements, and just spending time with him. We were incredibly close, and when I was 16, my grandfather passed away unexpectedly from a massive heart attack. To be honest, it devastated me. The reading of the will a few weeks later was a masterclass in greed. My dad and uncle were practically salivating in the lawyer's office, expecting to split my grandpa's estate and, most importantly, that prime commercial lot. Instead, Miss Vance, my grandfather's longtime attorney, read the stipulations. They were left a modest cash sum and a couple of paid-off residential rental properties. The commercial lot was not mentioned in the probate documents at all. My uncle immediately interrupted Miss Vance and said, "Hold on, where's the highway property?" "The 20 acres off Route 9. The assets listed are the entirety of the probate estate," Miss Vance replied calmly. My dad scoffed, leaning back in his chair. "He probably sold it years ago and hid the cash just to spite us. He always treated us like idiots. Unbelievable. The old man screws us one last time." They were furious. What they didn't know, and what I wouldn't fully understand until later, was that my grandpa had secretly transferred the deed to that commercial lot into an irrevocable trust 5 years before he died, and I was the sole beneficiary. The trust was managed by Miss Vance, and the stipulations were strict. The trust would remain completely sealed and managed by her until my 18th birthday, at which point the assets would transfer over to me. Fast forward to a few months before my 18th birthday. At that time, I was 17, living at home, trying to keep my head down and survive my senior year of high school. My dad had already blown through his cash inheritance on a new truck and was deep in debt. My uncle was not doing much better. Then a massive national retail developer announced plans to build a mega shopping center right near the highway intersection, and suddenly my grandfather's old lot was the most valuable piece of undeveloped land in the county. My uncle, using his connections as a broker, started digging, and he found out the developer was desperately trying to acquire that specific lot to serve as the main entrance to their new complex. Seeing dollar signs, my uncle approached the developer, falsely claiming that he and my dad were the executors of my grandfather's estate and the rightful owners of this land. Behind my back, my uncle actually signed a binding purchase agreement with the developer for $2.5 million. To lock in the deal, the developer wired a $50,000 earnest money deposit into an escrow account that my uncle had fraudulently set up. Effectively, my uncle and my dad had just sold my inheritance. But there was a massive catch here. When my uncle went to the county clerk's office to pull the official property records to prepare for the closing, he found the deed transfer and he saw the irrevocable trust. So he realized that not only did they not own the land, but that I was gonna own it in a matter of months. Instead of backing out and returning the deposit, my uncle's greed took over. He went to my dad and they hatched a plan that was so breathtakingly illegal, it still shocks me. My uncle told my dad that the trust was just a minor roadblock. So his plan was to forge a revocation of trust document, backdating it to a year before my grandpa died, complete with a forged signature from my grandfather and a fake notary stamp. This fake document would claim my grandfather dissolved the trust and took the property back into his personal name. Then they would file a fraudulent executor's deed transferring the property from my grandpa's estate directly to themselves, allowing them to close the deal with the developer and pocket the $2.5 million. And yeah guys, just to quickly interject here, if your so-called family would try something like this, what would you do? Honestly, I'm not sure if you can call this family. I would rather have enemies that want to kill me than have a family like this, honestly. Let me know what you would have done if you were in OP's shoes, and while you're at it, please don't forget to like the video and post a comment telling me where you are watching from today. That would help me tremendously. Thank you so much for the help with the YouTube algorithm. Anyway, title companies are thorough. My uncle knew that because I was a direct legal heir, a grandson, a title insurance underwriter might flag the transaction and require a waiver from all potential heirs to ensure a clean title. And that is when they came for me. One evening, I came downstairs to find my dad and uncle sitting at the kitchen table. There was a stack of papers between them, and they both put on these incredibly fake or very friendly smiles that immediately made my stomach drop. "Hey buddy, grab a seat," my uncle said, gesturing to a chair. "We're just wrapping up the last of your grandpa's estate, you know. The county clerks are a nightmare right now, so we need your help to streamline some things." My dad slid a pen across the table. "Just a formality, really. We need you to sign here and here. It just clears up some clerical errors so we can finalize the probate." I looked down at the paper. Right at the top in bold letters it read, "Quitclaim deed and waiver of interest." Even at 17 back then, thanks to the summers I spent with my grandpa, I knew exactly what a quitclaim deed was. I started reading the property description, and yeah, it was the highway lot. Why am I signing away my rights to the highway lot?" I asked, looking up at them. "I thought you said Grandpa sold it before he died." My uncle's smile tightened. "It is just legal mumbo-jumbo, kid. The title company is being overly cautious. Since you're a blood relative, they just need a signature saying you don't have a claim to it. It doesn't mean anything." If it doesn't mean anything, why do I need to sign it? I pushed back. I want Mrs. Vance to look at it first. And by the way guys, God bless this kid, he is so smart for his age. Anyway, the friendly egg dropped instantly. My dad slammed his hand on the table, making me jump. "Are you kidding me?" my dad yelled, his face turning red. "After everything I've done for you? I put a roof over your head for 17 years. I fed you, I clothed you, and you're gonna hold up my money over some BS you don't even understand?" "I understand what a quitclaim is, Dad," I said, my voice shaking, but holding my ground. "I'm not signing it until a lawyer reads it." My uncle leaned in, his voice dropping to a nasty, condescending sneer. "Listen to me, you arrogant little crap. You think you're smarter than us because your old man let you paint his fences? You don't know anything about real estate. You sign the paper or you're gonna ruin a multi-million-dollar deal for this family." "It's not your deal if you need my signature to close it," I shot back. Damn, I love this kid. My dad stood up, knocking his chair backwards. He pointed a finger inches from my face. "I'm your father and I'm telling you to sign that paper right now," he snarled. "If you don't sign it, you're no son of mine. You can pack your bags and get the hell out of my house. I'm not raising an ungrateful, selfish brat who stabs his own family in the back." So yeah guys, he was disowning me over a piece of paper. He was willing to throw his 17-year-old son onto the street for a payday. I looked at him, realizing in that moment that my grandpa had been right about him all along. I did not even say a word. I just turned around, walked up to my room, packed a duffel bag with my clothes and my laptop, and walked out the front door. My dad was screaming at me from the porch as I walked down the driveway, telling me I would be back, begging when I realized how hard the real world was. I called my best friend and his family let me crash on their couch. The next morning I skipped school and took a bus straight to Mrs. Van's law office. I told her everything, the developer, the waiver they tried to force me to sign, the screaming match and the fact that I'd been kicked out. Miss Vance listened quietly, her expression darkening with every word. When I finished, she sighed heavily, took off her glasses and said, "I knew they were greedy, but I didn't think they were this stupid," she muttered. I expected her to immediately call the police or file a lawsuit, but she explained that the legal reality was much more complicated. OP, because you're still 17, your hands are legally tied. She explained, her voice dead serious. You're a minor, I'm the trustee, but if I file an injunction now, it will tip them off. Your uncle is a licensed broker. If he knows what we are onto him, he will immediately destroy whatever forged documents he's cooked up, back out of the deal, and claim that it was all a misunderstanding. We have no hard proof yet, just a blank waiver they tried to get you to sign. So they just get away with it? I asked, feeling completely defeated. No, Miss Vance said. We cannot stop them from filing the fake papers or taking the developer's deposit right now. If we want them, they hide the evidence. Our only legal option is to let them hang themselves. And by the way, guys, that is an absolutely epic lawyer. The absolute second you turn 18, you will have the legal standing to drop the hammer. Until then, we prepare, let them commit the fraud on the public record, and let them dig their own graves. So I waited for 3 agonizing months. I lived out of a suitcase in my friend's house. Also, I worked part-time at a grocery store after school to pay for my own food so I would not be a burden on my friend's parents. It was incredibly depressing, to be honest with you. I had nights where I just stared at the ceiling wondering if I should just call my dad and apologize. But then I would remember the look of pure greed in his eyes, and the anger would keep me going. I didn't hear a single word from him. He had truly thrown me away. Meanwhile, my uncle and dad were busy. They filed the forged revocation of trust with the county. They filed the fraudulent executor's deed. They scheduled the final closing date with the developer and the title company, and the closing date was set for a Tuesday. My 18th birthday was the Friday before. At 8 a.m. on the morning of my 18th birthday, I was sitting in Miss Vance's office. I signed the official documents formally accepting my role as the beneficiary of the trust. Miss Vance did not waste a single second. So we then filed the original, authentic, irrevocable trust documents proving the trust had never been dissolved. Simultaneously, Ms. Vance filed a lis pendens, a formal notice of pending litigation against the property title. This is essentially a nuclear bomb in real estate. It completely freezes a property, warning any potential buyer that the title is disputed and they cannot legally purchase it. We did not say a word to my dad or my uncle. We just let them walk right into the trap of their own making. Tuesday arrived, my dad and uncle walked into the title company's conference room in their best suits, ready to sign the final paperwork and walk away with $2.5 million. The developer was there, along with his corporate lawyers. I was not in the room, but Miss Vance later got the full breakdown from the developer's lawyer, who became a key witness. According to him, the closing agent walked into the room looking pale. She did not hand out pens. Instead, she informed everyone in the room that the final transfer couldn't proceed. The title search, which had been updated that morning, had come back severely flagged. She placed the lis pendens and the authentic trust documents on the table. She pointed out that the revocation of trust my uncle had filed was a blatant forgery, as the real trust was irrevocable and the property legally belonged to me. My uncle started sweating profusely. There's been a mistake, my uncle stammered, trying to laugh it off. My nephew is a confused kid. The trust was dissolved, I assure you. We can clear this up in a few days. The developer, a guy who didn't get to the top of the retail food chain by suffering fools, stood up. He packed his briefcase, leaned across the table, and looked my uncle dead in the eye. You told me you had clear title, the developer said, his voice like ice. You signed a binding sale agreement. You cashed my $50,000 deposit. This is not a mistake. It's not just a breach of contract. This is wire fraud, grand theft, and forgery. You'll be hearing from my litigators by the end of the day. The fallout was swift and utterly devastating. The developer's legal team immediately filed a massive lawsuit against my uncle and my dad, trying to recover the $50,000 deposit plus legal damages. Because my uncle had used his brokerage to facilitate the transaction, the State Real Estate Commission investigated and revoked his license permanently. But the civil suit was just the beginning. The title company, legally obligated to report title fraud, contacted the authorities. The district attorney's office took one look at the forged notary stamp on the fake revocation of trust, the interstate wire transfer of the $50,000, and the fraudulent executor's deed, and they brought the hammer down. My dad and my uncle were arrested a month later. They turned on each other instantly. My dad told the police that my uncle masterminded the whole thing and that he forged the documents and that he, my dad, was just a pawn. And guys, don't you just love it? Criminals betraying each other. That is why you never trust a criminal. Anyway, my uncle claimed my dad was the executor and assured him the documents were real, trying to play the victim of a lying brother. Well, let me say, the authorities didn't care. They had both signed the fraudulent deeds, they had both pressured me to sign the waiver, and they had both conspired to defraud the developer and steal my inheritance. Because of the dollar amount involved, $2.5 million attempted theft and $50,000 actual theft, and the blatant forgery of public records, they were facing serious felony charges. However, they could not afford good lawyers because the developer's civil suit had bankrupted them. They both ended up taking plea deals. My uncle, as the licensed professional who orchestrated the real estate fraud and set up the wire transfer, was sentenced to 5 years in state prison. My dad, who had disowned me and tried to leave me homeless to steal from me, was sentenced to 3 years in state prison. I did not attend their sentencing. I had nothing left to say to them. As for me, once the criminal case was settled and the fake deeds were expunged from the county records by a judge, I had clear, undisputed title to the land. The developer still wanted the property for his shopping center, and with Miss Vance representing me, I legally sold the land to the developer for $2.8 million. The market value had actually gone up since my uncle's initial shady deal. I put the money into a diversified, professionally managed portfolio. It actually paid for my college tuition in full, bought me a modest house in cash, and has given me a financial safety net for the rest of my life. Suffice to say, I graduated debt-free and am currently working a job I actually love without having to stress about living paycheck to paycheck. And now some opinions about the story. So I would say OP's dad and uncle didn't make one bad decision, they made a whole series of deliberate bad choices. But it's interesting that the grandfather clearly knew what kind of people they were, which is why he put the land in a trust for OP in the first place. But yeah, I think that OP made his grandpa proud. Then a comment from Reddit said, "Everyone sucks here, but your dad and uncle suck way more. What they did was obviously criminal, trying to forge trust documents and pressure a 17-year-old into signing a quitclaim deed and then kicking you out when you refused is just disgusting. Especially your dad crossed the line when he chose money over his own kid." That said, I do think the let them hang themselves part makes this a little morally messy. I understand why your lawyer advised it, and legally it may have been the smartest move. But from a human perspective, waiting for them to file fraudulent documents and walk into the closing meant the consequences became much bigger than they might have been if everyone had shut it down earlier. Still, I cannot blame you too much. And yeah guys, I would say that Reddit comment definitely goes into the victim-blaming territory, and therefore I cannot agree with it at all. And now we will read one of those unhinged YTA comments that you usually love. So it said, "Yeah, your dad and uncle were shady, but you literally let your own family walk into prison when you could have stopped it months earlier. You were 17, not 7. You knew what was happening here. You went to a lawyer, sat on the information, waited for them to file fake documents, and then basically nuked them from orbit the second you turned 18. Everyone here is cheering because inheritance and fraud are magic Reddit words, but come on, these are still your father and uncle. They raised you, fed you, clothed you, and instead of trying to resolve it like an adult, you helped set up a trap so they would get the maximum punishment possible." And yeah guys, that is what you call an unhinged, stupid comment. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. And the next one is titled, "I got Prorevenge on my mom." So for context, my dad died on December 1st, 2022. He briefly lived with me before his passing after a long stint of being chronically ill for the past 15 years. As his health declined, he relied more on my mom for things. Prior to this, she was never a great person and fully took advantage of his disability and mobility issues as he declined. For years, she claimed to be separated and divorced, talking to other men on the internet. She made claims many times that she was gonna move away and marry someone else. In addition, she took advantage of him financially. We tried every legal avenue we could find to have her kicked out, arrested, or force her out, but those attempts were met with responses that it was a civil matter and there was nothing that could be done. He made me durable POA and added me to all his accounts. This is a small portion of her abuse, but I promise her actions were no less than neglectful and exploitive. And by the way, Ripestars, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think POA or durable POA stands for Durable Power of Attorney. AKA, that's usually like a legal document that grants an agent authority to manage your financial or healthcare affairs. And that then even remains in effect if you become mentally or physically incapacitated. Anyway, I had tried for years to get my dad to move in with me, but he was not leaving the house he worked so hard to pay for. I brought him home on hospice the day after Thanksgiving and made sure his final days were the best they could be. After meeting with the funeral home to carry out his final wishes, I was told they required consent from my mom to allow me to cremate him. Seriously, it was no surprise she initially told me no and only agreed after I allowed her to keep the Social Security survivor benefits, which would have been hers anyway. I wrote his obituary and left her out of it. There was not a single word or mention he had ever been married or had a spouse. I didn't feel that she deserved to be recognized or viewed as a grieving widow when she spent their marriage as a crappy person and spouse. She actually lost her mind and there were many questions from friends and family alike. I spent years in therapy working through maternal narcissistic abuse and believe if she didn't want me to talk about it, she shouldn't have done it. When people asked about it, I was honest about the years of abuse my father and I endured from her. I have completely ruined the public image and victim complex she spent years creating. I might be the villain and the a-hole in this scenario, but I would do it again in a heartbeat. And yeah guys, let me know in the comments, do you think OP was the a-hole here? I don't really think so, but maybe you have a different opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments. The next one is another super interesting pro-revenge story that you don't want to miss. It is titled, "Don't Threaten Me If You Are Not Prepared to Go Through With It." So I'm a business owner in another country with very strict libel laws. If you say something bad about someone, doesn't matter if it's true or not, and it costs them money, they can sue you. By the way, I don't know where OP is from, but the exact same stupid law applies in Thailand as well. I mean, seriously, there are some situations where people have a super bad meal/experience at a restaurant, then they post a negative review on Google Maps, and the owner of the restaurant, even if what you're saying is true in the review, can sue you. It is absolutely wild, and the same applies to hotels and other businesses as well. I think it even applies to medical malpractice. It's absolutely wild. Anyway, it's the law in my country and people get sued for it a lot. Just to say an example, if you say you're a man and you're cheating on your wife and I tell your boss, this man is cheating on his wife and your boss fires you, you can sue me because you lose your job because I told your boss. Even though it's true that you're cheating on your wife. Stupid law, I think. If not true, I understand, but if true, why is it legal? Anyway, my country's not perfect, so I own a bar and my bar is very successful. I try and take care of my customers and I'm always at my bar, making sure my staff are doing a good job. I also always have events and parties. This, I think, helps my bar be successful, so not too long ago I moved my bar to a better location and shortly after, the bar owner across the street started to threaten me. She said I was telling people she had illegal people working for her, and she said I told people that she was selling intercourse. She said I was saying she was ripping people off. I did not know any of this and I don't even know her. I mean, I'm busy, I got a bar, I got a family and I got a normal job too, and then one day she sends me a message and says I need to pay her $25,000, else she would sue me. I need to pay the 25k because it is less than what the court would make me pay. By the way guys, that is called extortion and that is not country specific. That's illegal everywhere. Anyway, I'm angry. I don't know why I need to pay $25,000 for something I didn't do. I think she was just mad at my success. My boyfriend, who's American, told me I should speak to a lawyer and it was very stressful. I just want to do business and live a happy life. I don't want to fight over stupid stuff. But after a few weeks of her texting me demanding I pay her money, I go to a lawyer. The lawyer told me that I can sue her for blackmail and she can sue me for saying bad things about her. So I told my lawyer, I did not say good or bad things about her, I don't even know her. The lawyer says, then that is fine because she will have to prove I said bad things about her, and if I didn't say anything bad about her, well, then she cannot win. So I can prove that she tried and blackmailed me. If she wants money out of me for saying bad things about her, she needs to sue me, not blackmail me. So I sued her. It took a long time, a very long time. Over 1 year, in fact, lots of paperwork back and forth, waiting, very stressful. I was pulling out my hair. I'm just glad my boys keep me happy and focused. And then the day comes, we go in front of a judge. The judge said that she cannot prove I said anything bad about her, and since she cannot prove I said anything bad, she gets nothing. The judge then told me that I need to get paperwork showing how much money I paid to my lawyer. Well, I was smart and I brought it with me. My lawyer was very expensive. The judge then asked how much money my business made, and I told the judge, and I also brought proof. The judge then ordered her to pay 10% of my whole year money because she was trying to blackmail me, and that is not okay. 10% was a lot of money, a lot more than 25k she had to sell her bar to pay me. I was so happy, but you see, she had problems. She could not sell her bar. No one wanted to buy it because many people say my bar put her bar out of business, so why do they want to buy it? So when they give her the price, it's a very low price, not enough to pay me or give her enough money to do something else. So I told her, let's make a deal. You give me your bar, and we say everything is even. She said that's too much money, so I promised to pay her a little bit every month as rent, and she agreed because she had no choice. So I bought her bar. I got it for a very good price because she had to pay me and she had no money. In my country, if a judge tells you that you have to pay something and you cannot pay it, then one day they will send you to jail. So I took her bar, turned it into a restaurant, which is also doing good. So now I have a good bar, a good restaurant, and I'm happy again. It was a very stressful 18 months. I didn't want to fight her. I don't know why she tried and fought me. I think she was just mad. She was always mad and mean, which is why I think no one liked her. And the next one is a fantastic petty revenge story, which is titled "In-laws constantly berate my baking skills in favor of sister-in-law, so I copied her cake pop design and tricked them into eating it." So this is not necessarily my proudest moment, but I'm tired of being the outcast. My 30th female husband, Pete, 34 male, comes from a family where the women are all bakers. I'm a baker myself and I used to sell out of my house under my state's cottage laws, but stopped because I like it just being a hobby. His sister-in-law, Kay, 39, is the one who is known for her cupcakes and cake pops, and when I first met everyone years ago, it was the first thing I learned. Everyone talked about everything she made. Even when Pete mentioned how good my stuff was, everyone would say that Kay sells hers and they are popular, so they must be better than mine. Whenever I bring treats, they are often left untouched because they are not Kay's. Yeah, I've been told that. They ask me to bring something every get-together and they never touch it. And to be clear here, Kay is mainly a baker, whereas I bake and specialize in professionally decorated cakes. Kay says that overly decorated cakes are compensating for their bad taste, and Pete's family agrees with it. We had a barbecue on Monday for Memorial Day and everyone made their treats. Kay decided to bring cake pops. She posted them on her Instagram the night before, so I know, and this is immature, but I made the exact same ones she did, same flavor and design. We got there and everyone asked where my treats were. I sat there in a car and I'll get them in a minute, so I waited for everyone to be outside, then I brought mine in and put them next to Kay's. After we eat, I noticed the family's eating my cake pops, not Kay's. She didn't notice at first and then asked if they were not feeling the cake pops. They said they just ate them and they were the best she ever made and asked what she did different. Mother-in-law even said they looked so much better in person than in the picture. Kay was confused and said hers were still on the table. That's when I said, "Oh, I brought those. Glad you enjoyed them." Her husband said he hadn't had one yet. Lies, he ate too. And everyone else just said, yeah, they were okay. Kay didn't say anything the rest of the night. Pete thought it was funny. He didn't know what I did until the reveal, but his brother, Kay's husband, said yesterday that what I did was mean, and I'm just mad that Kay is a better baker. And yeah guys, honestly, call me petty, but making irreparable damage like that during revenge without hurting anyone is tastier than any cake you could make. But honestly, that husband's family sounds like a bunch of douchebags. No offense intended. Thank you for watching. I will see you again tomorrow.